Every evening, I went home with my boss. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Before I begin, let me tell you something. For almost a year, I went home with my boss every single evening. If anyone at work had discovered the truth, they would have believed the worst. But the truth wasn't a love story. It was a story about kindness, second chances, and how one act of compassion changed my entire life. My name is Emma. I am 24 years old. And this is my story. I grew up in a small farming town where life was simple but difficult. My father worked long hours repairing tractors, and my mother sold homemade bread in the local market. Money was always short. After graduating from college, I promised my parents I would build a better future. With one suitcase and a heart full of hope, I moved to the city. After weeks of searching, I found a job as a junior accountant at a large construction company. The salary wasn't impressive, but it was enough to survive. I rented a tiny apartment with peeling paint and old furniture. To me, it felt like success. Every month, I paid my rent, bought groceries, and sent part of my salary back home. Life wasn't perfect, but I was proud. Then one phone call changed everything. My younger brother had been seriously injured in a motorcycle accident. He needed emergency surgery. The hospital demanded money before the operation could begin. Without thinking twice, I emptied my savings and transferred every dollar to my parents. My brother survived, but I had nothing left. When rent was due, I couldn't pay. The landlord gave me 3 days to leave. I begged for more time. He refused. That evening, I packed my belongings into my old hatchback and drove away. I told nobody, not my coworkers, not my friends, not even my parents. I didn't want them to feel guilty. For nearly 3 months, my car became my home. Every morning before sunrise, I drove to a 24-hour gym. Using the cheapest membership available, I showered, brushed my teeth, and changed into clean office clothes. By 8 o'clock, nobody could guess where I had spent the night. At work, I smiled. I answered emails, prepared reports, attended meetings, pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was exhausted. Winter arrived. The nights became freezing. Sometimes I woke up because my hands were too cold to move. Lunch became a luxury. Most afternoons, I drank water instead of eating. One Monday morning, I fainted while carrying financial files. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on a sofa inside the executive office. Standing beside me was my boss. His name was Daniel Carter. Everyone feared him. He was strict, quiet, and expected excellence from everyone. But that day, his face showed something I had never seen before. Concern. "When did you last eat?" he asked. I tried to smile. "I'm fine." He folded his arms. "That's not what I asked." For the first time in months, I broke down. Between tears, I told him everything. The accident, the rent, sleeping in my car, the hunger, the loneliness. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, the room became silent. Finally, he stood up. "Come with me." I thought he was taking me to human resources. Instead, he asked for my car keys. We drove across the city until we reached a quiet neighborhood filled with trees. He stopped in front of a large but peaceful house. "This is where I live," he said. "You'll stay here." I stared at him. "I can't." "You can. It wouldn't be appropriate." He smiled for the first time. "You're staying in the guest room, Emma. Nothing more. I don't want people talking. They don't need to know." That evening, I slept in a real bed for the first time in months. The mattress felt like a cloud. I cried before falling asleep. Not because I was sad, because I finally felt safe. Life slowly became different. Every evening after work, we drove home together. Sometimes we cooked dinner. Sometimes we ordered pizza. Sometimes we simply drank tea while talking about life. I learned something surprising. Mr. Carter wasn't cold. He was lonely. 5 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a long illness. His only son had accepted a job overseas and rarely came home. The large house felt empty. One evening, while washing dishes, I asked him why he had trusted me. He looked out the kitchen window. "When my wife was sick," he said quietly, "strangers helped us many times. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would help someone else." Those words stayed with me. Months passed. Instead of wasting evenings scrolling through social media, he encouraged me to study. He lent me business books, accounting books, leadership books. Every night, we spent an hour learning together. Slowly, my confidence returned. At work, I became faster, more organized, more professional. People noticed, but they also noticed something else. Every evening, my boss and I left together. Rumors began. Some employees whispered when I entered the office. Others stopped talking whenever I walked into the lunchroom. One afternoon, a coworker named Linda confronted me. "So, you and Mr. Carter?" I frowned. "What about him? You leave together every day." "I know. You expect us to believe that's normal?" I smiled politely. "Believe whatever you want." The gossip grew worse. It hurt, but I refused to explain myself. Some stories weren't mine alone to tell. 6 months later, the company announced a new position, Senior Financial Coordinator. Everyone wanted it, including Linda. For weeks, candidates completed difficult projects and interviews. I worked harder than ever. The final meeting arrived. The entire company gathered in the conference room. Mr. Carter stood at the front. After careful evaluation, he announced, "The promotion goes to Emma." The room became silent. Then Linda stood. "This isn't fair." Everyone looked toward her. "We all know why she got promoted." The whispers began immediately. Mr. Carter didn't raise his voice. Instead, he calmly asked one question. "Do you believe promotions should be based on rumors or performance?" Nobody answered. He continued. "Emma completed every assessment with the highest score." He displayed charts on the screen. Project accuracy, client satisfaction, efficiency improvements, training results. Every number supported his decision. Then he looked at me. "Emma, would you like them to know the truth?" For a moment, I hesitated. Then I nodded. He told the story, not dramatically, simply. How I had sacrificed everything to save my brother. How I had secretly lived in my car. How I had never asked anyone for help. How I had worked every single day without complaining. The room was completely quiet. Some coworkers lowered their heads. Others looked shocked. Linda slowly sat back down. After the meeting, something unexpected happened. People apologized, not because they had to, because they finally understood. Months later, I had saved enough money to rent a beautiful apartment. The day I packed my belongings, Mr. Carter helped carry the boxes. The house suddenly felt empty again. Before I left, he handed me a small wrapped gift. Inside was the first accounting book he had ever given me. Written on the first page were a few simple words. "Never forget where you started, and never stop helping someone who needs a chance." I smiled. "I won't." Today, I manage an entire finance department. I mentor young employees who remind me of myself. Whenever I see someone struggling quietly, I remember the freezing nights inside my car. And I remember the men everyone feared, who turned out to be the kindest person I had ever met. People often judge stories before knowing the truth. Sometimes the biggest secret isn't a scandal. Sometimes it's an act of kindness. If you're going through a difficult season in your life, don't lose hope. The chapter you're living today is not the end of your story. Sometimes one unexpected person can change everything. And one day, you may become that person for someone else.